The stars over Veer Coalition space had always been busy. Trade ships moved between stations, patrol fleets guarded borders, and mining convoys drifted between asteroids. But tonight, the void was different. Something new had entered. From the observation deck of the Coalition High Command Orbital Station, Counselor Riven Tor stared at the holographic display. A cluster of unknown ships was moving through Sector K-47. Their formation was tight, almost too perfect. They weren't broadcasting any identification codes. "Still nothing from them?" Riven asked, his voice sharper than usual. "Commander." Vexol, head of the station's fleet control, shook his head. "No transponders, no hails, they're just coming." Riven's long, scaled fingers tapped against the edge of the console. "They must be pirates." Vec hesitated. "Pirates don't fly in formation this precise, and they don't move with this kind of confidence." The hologram zoomed in. 30 ships, all different sizes. Some massive, some small and fast-looking. All dark gray or black, with faint blue lights pulsing across their hulls. No banners, no markings. In the council chamber below, representatives from 7 species were already shouting over each other. "They could be a lost fleet from the Andari Republic," shouted one. "No, no, this is a mercenary armada," another countered. "What if it's a new empire? What if they mean to conquer us?" Riven entered the chamber and the noise dropped slightly. "They are still approaching. If they wanted to attack outright, they would have opened fire on our border patrol." A smaller insectoid counselor clicked her mandibles nervously. "Or they are waiting, studying us before striking." The Veer Coalition had seen many fleets pass through their territory over the centuries, but this one was different. The ships moved in silence. No idle chatter over open comms. No greetings. Just a slow, steady advance. The Coalition sent 3 war frigates to intercept. Their captains sent polite hails, asking the newcomers to identify themselves. No answer came. Instead, the fleet adjusted course, directly toward the Coalition's central neutral zone. By now, rumors had spread across every station. Civilian chatter flooded the comms networks. "Who are they? Where did they come from? Are we under attack?" In a private strategy room, Riven studied the incoming ships with a handful of military analysts. "They aren't showing weapons," one analyst noted. "But that doesn't mean they don't have them." "They're armed," Vex said with certainty. "Anyone with eyes can see it. The hull plating alone. That's not transport armor, that's warship armor." Riven narrowed his eyes. "Then why not reveal themselves? Why not declare intentions?" Vex's voice lowered. "Maybe they don't need to." The fleet kept coming. The 3 Coalition war frigates shadowed them at a cautious distance, ready to call for reinforcements. The unknown ships gave no sign of fear, no sign of haste. They simply ignored the Coalition's presence, as though they were insects buzzing nearby. The Coalition Council sent another order. "Try again. Demand identification." The frigate captains obeyed. This time, their message was firm. Unidentified. "Fleet, you have entered Veer Coalition space. Identify yourselves or we will take defensive action." Seconds ticked by, then minutes. No response. And then, without warning, the lead ship in the mysterious fleet activated its comms. The voice that came through was deep, calm, measured. "Stand by." That was all. One phrase, 2 words. Spoken in galactic common, but with an accent most Coalition officers had never heard before. The frigate captains glanced at each other in confusion. "Stand by? For what?" On the station's command deck, Riven leaned forward. "Did we record that voice?" "Yes," Vec replied. "Running it through linguistic databases now." The system worked quickly, comparing the voice to known languages and accents. After a few seconds, the computer displayed the result in large, bold letters. Origin. Human. Earth. The command deck fell silent. The Coalition had heard of humans, but only in fragments of history, scattered reports, and rumor. They were an emerging species from a high-gravity, predator-filled world, what the galaxy classified as a death world. Death worlders were rare. Most species avoided planets that hostile. Extreme weather, toxic plants, dangerous animals. Such worlds killed most intelligent life before it could develop. But humans had not only survived, they had thrived. Stories about them were almost myth. Some claimed they were impossible to kill. Others whispered that humans didn't fear death the way most species did. There were even tales of human soldiers, holding ground against entire armies. If the rumors were true, this could mean trouble. The council chamber was in uproar again. Humans? Here! Impossible! They don't have fleets this size. Maybe they conquered someone else's fleet. They are Death Worlders. Maybe they built it themselves. Riven stood in the center of the chamber. If they are human, we must be careful. We do not know why they are here. And we do not know their customs. The insectoid counselor clicked her mandibles in warning. Death Worlders do not come without reason. The Coalition sent one last request for a meeting. This time, the response came almost immediately. This fleet will accept your greeting, the same human voice said. We will meet you at your neutral station. Relief swept through some of the council members. If the humans were willing to talk, maybe there was hope. But then the fleet adjusted course again, not toward the station, not toward the capital. Instead, they're heading locked onto Ryal system, a war zone. The Ryal system had been contested for months. The Shar Syndicate, a ruthless raider faction, had overrun several mining colonies. Coalition forces had been fighting to push them back, but the battles had been costly. Just 2 days ago, the Coalition had lost another defense line there. Now, the human fleet was heading straight into it. They mean to take Ryal, shouted one counselor. They will seize our system while we are weak. But Riven wasn't sure. He studied the way the human ships moved, deliberate, coordinated like predators stalking prey. Or, he said slowly, they mean to take it from the Syndicate. Vec turned to him. Either way, counselor, we'll have our answer soon. They'll be in the system within 30 hours. Riven stared out at the stars, feeling a strange unease. Humans, Death Worlders. The galaxy had seen them only in small numbers before, explorers, traders, mercenaries, but never like this. Never with a fleet, and never so silent. The next day, the human fleet passed through the Creus Gate, ignoring Coalition patrol ships entirely. They didn't slow down. They didn't open comms again. Coalition intelligence tried to contact them. Civilian ships scattered out of their path. News feeds across Coalition space ran constant updates, and still, the humans said nothing. On the eve of their arrival in Ryal system, the Coalition flagship Drenavar intercepted them, broadcasting a final challenge. This is Admiral Sarek of the Coalition Defense Fleet. State your purpose. For a long moment, only static answered. Then the human voice returned, deeper this time, with an edge like sharpened steel. Stand by. The Death Worlders will address you now. Every alien on the bridge froze. The galaxy had just been put on notice. The message spread through the Veer Coalition faster than light. Death Worlders are here. No one said humans out loud anymore. They didn't have to. That one word, Death Worlders, carried more weight than an entire fleet's worth of guns. In the council chambers of High Command Orbital Station, the alien leaders sat in tense silence. The holoscreens showed grainy, magnified images of the approaching ships. Their designs were unfamiliar, angular hulls, armored plating that looked almost scarred, and no visible ornamentation. These were not ships built for display. They were built to survive. Counselor Riven Tor broke the silence. What do we know of them? Commander Vec Sol adjusted the holo display. Not enough. We have scattered reports from frontier sectors, trade encounters, small military actions, but nothing this large. A heavy-set aquatic counselor, Velran, let out a deep, bubbling sound, the equivalent of a worried sigh. Deathworlders are rare for a reason. Most worlds that dangerous never produce spacefaring civilizations. Those that do, well, they are not peaceful. Rumors from the past. The insectoid counselor Jarek spoke next, her voice clicking with unease. I heard a story from the Talrin border worlds. A pirate clan took a human freighter, only to find it carried soldiers disguised as traders. The humans took back their ship, and the pirates' ship, and their base, in one night. Velran's eyes swiveled toward her. That's only a story. Jarek shook her head. Maybe, but I've heard too many such stories. Another voice joined in. Admiral Sarek, still patched in from the Coalition flagship Drenovar. His tone was grim. Stories or not, I've fought beside one human ship before. It was 20 years ago against the Karak swarm. Our fleet was breaking. The human ship stayed behind to cover our retreat. They fought for 6 hours, with their reactor half destroyed. No one asked what happened next. The look in Sarek's eyes was answer enough. Why now? Counselor Riven tapped his claws against the table. Humans have never moved in numbers like this. So why now? Why Rael System? Vec answered without hesitation. Because the Shar Syndicate is there. That name sent a ripple through the room. The Syndicate wasn't just another pirate group. They were a plague, slavers, raiders, and warlords rolled into one. Their cruelty was infamous, even among criminals. Jarek's mandibles clicked in thought. Do the humans have a treaty with the Coalition? No, Vec said, but they might not need one. Maybe they hate slavers enough to act without permission. Velran gave a doubtful sound. Or they intend to take the system for themselves, and the Syndicate is simply in their way. Civilian fearfar from the council chamber in the marketplaces of Clear Station, civilians debated in hushed tones. Deathworlders? Here? I thought they stayed near their own territory. They say they can survive weapons fire longer than any of us. I heard their soldiers carry blades in space battles. Even merchant captains were nervous. Some altered their routes to avoid the Raal sector entirely. Others tried to follow the human fleet at a safe distance, hoping to witness whatever was about to happen. Inside the fleet on board, the lead human flagship, Resolute Dawn, Admiral Carter Voss stood in the command center, arms folded behind his back. His officers worked quietly, their movements precise. There was no idle chatter here, no wasted motion. Coalition ships are still shadowing us, reported Lieutenant Mara Elson. They're keeping their distance. Let them watch, Voss said. His voice was steady, calm, the same voice that had sent ripples of unease through the Coalition officers who'd heard it. The humans had no banners, no bright colors, no grand displays of power. Just the steady advance of 30 warships, each one a predator in steel. The Shar Syndicate in the Raal system. The Syndicate's warlord Karth Vren sat in the control pit of his flagship. His fleets had just driven the Coalition's defenders out of the mining colonies. Thousands of civilians were now under his ownership. His second-in-command rushed in. Warlord, new fleet inbound. Transponders off. Formation is military. Vren grinned, revealing sharp, jagged teeth. Coalition reinforcements? No. Not Coalition. Unknown design. Vren's grin faded slightly. How many? 30 ships. For a moment, silence. Then Vren chuckled darkly. Then they will make fine prizes. Old records back on the High Command Orbital Station, the Coalition Intelligence Corps pulled every file they could find on humans. Much of it was contradictory. Some records claimed humans preferred diplomacy. Others claimed they attacked first and negotiated later. Some painted them as clever traitors. others as relentless warriors. But one thing was constant in every report. Humans adapted faster than anyone else. They learned enemy tactics mid-battle. They used their environment in ways other species wouldn't think of. And they never gave up, even when hopelessly outnumbered. The waiting game. The Coalition's 3 shadowing frigates kept their distance as the human fleet closed in on Rial system. Admiral Sarek remained on edge. His orders were to observe, not interfere. But every instinct told him this situation could ignite into full war. On his bridge, his officers whispered among themselves. "Do you think they'll talk to the Syndicate?" "Talk? They're Deathworlders. They'll hit them first." Sarek listened but said nothing. His eyes stayed fixed on the tactical map. Tension in the air in the council chamber. Riven gave his final warning before the humans reached the system. "If they attack the Syndicate, we will have to decide quickly. Do we help them or stay out of it?" Velran shifted uneasily. "If we help, we risk giving them legitimacy in our space. If we stay out, they may still claim the system after they win." Jarek's mandibles twitched. "If they win." Riven looked at her. "They are Deathworlders. I don't think that is in question." Approach hours later, the human fleet crossed into Rial system. The Coalition observers followed, their sensors recording everything. Syndicate patrol ships moved to intercept, broadcasting threats. The humans did not respond. The first Syndicate ship fired a warning shot. The humans did not fire back. Then, the human flagship transmitted a single message. Not to the Coalition, not to the Syndicate, but to every channel in the system. "Stand down and release all captives. You have 1 hour." The Syndicate laughed at the broadcast. 1 hour? Against 30 unknown ships? They had over 50 armed vessels and control of the system's defenses. They sent their answer in the form of a full volley of missiles. Every single missile was intercepted. The human fleet's point defense systems lit the void with rapid, precise bursts. Not one warhead reached its target. In the Coalition's observation ships, Admiral Sarek's officers stared at the displays in disbelief. They didn't even break formation. "They're still advancing." Sarek said nothing. He just watched as the timer on the human broadcast ticked down. 59 minutes, 58. The council chamber back at high command was silent now. No shouting, no arguing, just the quiet realization that they were about to see what Deathworlders could really do. Riven spoke softly, almost to himself. "They warned them. That means they're certain of the outcome." The countdown reached 0. For one quiet heartbeat, the void was still. Then the Deathworlders moved. The human fleet surged forward in perfect unison, like a pack of predators locking onto prey. Their engines flared, not with reckless speed, but with precise acceleration. Every vessel kept its place in formation. On the Syndicate flagship Iron Fist, Warlord Karth Vren grinned as his ships unleashed a storm of weapons fire. Plasma cannons, missile salvos, and railgun bursts filled the space between the fleets, but the humans didn't break formation. They didn't dodge wildly. They absorbed the incoming fire behind overlapping energy shields, each ship's defenses covering the others. Where a gap appeared, another vessel shifted to fill it instantly. Precision strike. Target their lead. "Ship!" Vren barked. His gunners obeyed, concentrating all fire on the human flagship. On the Resolute Dawn, Admiral Carter Voss stood at the center of his bridge, watching the incoming barrage with a calm expression. "Forward shields hold steady," his tactical officer reported. "Good," Voss said. "Return fire. Surgical strikes only. Disable their command and control." Human weapons lit up the void. Their cannons didn't spray fire randomly. Each shot was placed exactly, hitting Syndicate comm arrays, shield generators, and engine cores. Within minutes, 3 Syndicate cruisers were dead in the water, drifting powerless. The Coalition watches on the Coalition observation ships. Admiral Sarek and his crew could only stare. They're not even trying to destroy them, one officer said, awe in her voice. They're crippling them, taking their teeth. Sarek narrowed his eyes. They want the fight over fast, without wasting shots. The human fleet kept advancing, its wall of ships forcing the Syndicate back toward the planet Rial Prime. Civilian rescue, while half the human fleet pushed the Syndicate warships, the other half broke formation. But not to chase fleeing ships. They dove straight into the war. Heart of the occupied mining colonies. Drop ships launched from their bays, moving with military precision. Inside one mining dome, Syndicate guards barely had time to react before human soldiers stormed in. Clad in heavy armor, carrying weapons built for brutal close-quarters fighting, they moved like they had rehearsed every hallway. "Clear Sector 1," a human sergeant barked. The aliens they rescued were stunned. Many had heard of Deathworlders only as dangerous wanderers. Now they saw them shielding civilians with their own armored bodies, moving them to evac points without hesitation. Syndicate. Panic on the Iron Fist. Vren's grin was gone. "They're ignoring our main fleet and going after the colonies. Get every ship we have down there." His second-in-command shook his head. "Too late. They've already taken 2 domes, and their fleet's pushing us into crossfire positions." Vren roared in frustration. "We outnumber them. Keep firing." The turning point. The human flagship broke the Syndicate's defensive line with a sudden, devastating burst of speed. Its forward batteries unleashed a focused strike on the Iron Fist's shield emitters. Vren's ship shuddered violently. The lights flickered. His crew scrambled to restore defenses, but the humans were already preparing the next volley. On the resolute dawn, Voss gave the order. "Fire!" The Iron Fist's starboard side erupted in flames, its power grid collapsing. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut to keep the ship from breaking apart. The Syndicate fleet began to scatter. Without their flagship in control, their formation broke. Some ships tried to flee, others fired wildly, desperate to cover their retreat. The shockwave. For the Coalition observers, it was almost unreal. In less than 40 minutes, the human fleet had turned a powerful Syndicate force into a panicked, retreating mess. Sarek's second officer whispered, "I've never seen anything like this." "It's not over yet," Sarek replied. "Watch them. They're still holding formation." Indeed, the human ships didn't chase every fleeing Syndicate vessel. They targeted only those threatening civilians or Coalition observation ships. The rest they let run, but they tagged each one with a tracking beacon. Planetfall. By the time the Syndicate retreat was complete, human ground forces had secured every mining dome and outpost on Rial Prime. On the colony's surface, Admiral Voss stepped out of a human dropship. The locals stared at him, some in fear, some in gratitude. A Coalition medical officer approached cautiously. You came all this way for this?" Voss looked at the rescued civilians being loaded onto transports. "No one else was coming," he said simply. The aftermath. With the Syndicate driven out, Coalition ships cautiously moved into the system. Admiral Sarek opened a channel to the Resolute Dawn. "This is Sarek of the Veer Coalition. Your intervention was unexpected." Voss's face appeared on the screen. "We warned them. They chose to ignore it." Sarek hesitated. "And now?" "Now the system is safe. Your people can resume control, if you can keep it that way." The message before leaving, the humans broadcast one final transmission to every corner of the RAL system. "To the slavers and raiders of this sector, your reign is over. If you return, we will be waiting." In the Coalition Council chamber, the mood was conflicted. "They saved our people," one counselor said. "They violated our borders," another argued. "They destroyed the Syndicate in record time," a third added. Counselor Riven listened quietly before speaking. "We can argue about territory later. For now, we must accept the truth. The Death Worlders have stepped forward, and the galaxy will not be the same. The RAL system was quiet now. Too quiet. The Syndicate was gone, their ships scattered or destroyed. The Coalition had retaken the colonies, and the civilians were safe. But Admiral Carter Voss knew the silence would not last. In his private command room aboard the Resolute Dawn, he studied the holographic map of the sector. Dozens of red beacons marked fleeing Syndicate ships, each tagged by human trackers. But there was another pattern hidden in the data. They were all running in the same direction. Toward the outer rim, a whisper from the Edge Commander Ilara, Chen entered the room. "Sir, we've intercepted transmissions from 3 different Syndicate remnants. They're scared." Voss looked up. "Of us?" She shook her head. "No, something else. They're calling it the Harvest." Voss frowned. "That's not a Syndicate code name." Ilara pulled up the recordings. Grainy, broken voices crackled over static. "They're coming. They take everything. No survivors. Stars go dark. Harvest worlds. Run, run, the E." Signal cut off. The Coalition's blind spot later, at the Coalition High Council meeting, the mood was tense. Representatives from dozens of species sat in the Great Chamber, the air heavy with debate. Councillor Riven addressed the room. "The humans are leaving. They've done what they came to do. The Syndicate is gone." Councillor Vrek of the Sulat. Union slammed a clawed hand on the table. "Gone? They will regroup. You saw how they fled in the same direction." Admiral Sarek leaned forward. "We have evidence they're running from something. The Death Worlders call it the Harvest." The room fell silent. Councillor Marek scoffed. "A myth? Pirates invent stories to cover their failures." Voss's voice cut in from the guest platform. "It's not a myth." Every eye turned to him. The Death Worlders' warning Voss stepped forward, his gaze sweeping the room. "We've encountered this before. Not in this sector, but near the Perseid verge. Entire star system stripped bare. Every living thing gone. No debris, no survivors, just empty planets and dead suns." Councillor Myrek's voice wavered. Who does this?" Voss tapped the holo controls. A projection appeared above the table, a massive, black-spined vessel that seemed to swallow light. "We call them the Harvesters. We don't know their true name, but we've fought them before." The Coalition chamber erupted in whispers. Political resistance. "Why have we never heard of them?" demanded Councillor Vrek. "Because," Voss said evenly, "the last time they came, we stopped them before they reached your space, and we didn't have time to file reports for your committees." That remark drew angry shouts from several delegates. Sarek raised his voice above the noise. "If this threat is real, then arguing over politics will not save us. We must prepare our defenses now." Councillor Riven turned to Voss. "What do you suggest?" The plan Voss keyed another command. A tactical map unfolded. "They move in waves, scout vessels first, then the main fleet. Once they arrive, they strip a system in days. The only chance is to hit their scouts before they can map a path." "And if we don't?" Riven asked quietly. "Then you evacuate every world in their path," Voss said. "And you pray they don't decide to change course." A division. Among allies, the Council broke into furious argument. Some worlds were willing to cooperate with the humans. Others refused, fearing that letting Death Worlders take the lead would be an even greater danger. "They will use this to take control of our fleets," one delegate warned. "They just saved thousands of lives," another countered. Voss watched them, expression unreadable. Humans were used to allies who bickered, but time was running short. The secret meeting that night, Sarek visited Voss aboard the Resolute Dawn. "You're right," Sarek said without preamble. "We can't wait for the Council to agree. I want in." Voss studied him. "You'll be branded a traitor if they find out?" They can call me what they want, Sarek said. But my people won't die because someone wanted more debate. Voss smiled faintly. Then we move fast. First contact with the Shadow 2 days later, human and Vire scout ships reached the edge of the sector. The stars here were dimmer, colder. Lieutenant Rahman on the frigate Black Lance was first to detect it, a faint distortion against the starlight. Admiral, we've got movement. The distortion grew. Then, slowly, the harvester ship emerged from the dark. Its hull was jagged and asymmetrical, as if grown rather than built. Pulses of deep red light traveled along its surface, like the heartbeat of a predator. It's bigger than our dreadnoughts, Sarek said quietly. And that's just a scout, Voss replied. The test Voss gave the order. Weapons free. The combined fleet opened fire, beams and missiles streaking through the void. At first it seemed to work. The harvester's outer hull flaked away under the assault. Then the red pulses quickened. The hull re-knit itself, sealing the damage in seconds. "They're repairing mid-battle," Rahman shouted. The harvester turned slowly toward them. From its prow a wave of energy burst forth, not an explosion, but a silent ripple. Every ship it touched lost power instantly. Lights died, engines went dark. Only the human flagship stayed online, its systems shielded. Against EMP effects, the risky move Voss knew they couldn't win here. "Signal the retreat. We're falling back to Royale Prime." Sarek looked at him in disbelief. "We can't lead them straight to the system." "They already know we're here," Voss said grimly. "But if we time it right, we can make them think we're weaker than we are." The Resolute Dawn fired one last salvo before turning away. The rest of the fleet limped behind, towing powerless ships. The stars above Royale Prime burned cold and sharp. The planet's surface was scarred from months of conflict. The mining colonies stood battered but alive, shelters still holding civilians safe. But far above, the real battle was about to begin. The Vorash Legion, the ancient biomechanical swarm, loomed at the edge of the system. Its endless black ships moved like a shadow across the stars, ready to consume everything in their path. The warning Admiral Carter Voss stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute Dawn. His voice was steady, but his eyes were hard as steel. "They're here," he said. "The harvesters have arrived. This is it." Around him, the human fleet readied their weapons, engines humming with controlled power. Coalition ships hovered nearby, some battered but willing to fight. "We don't have long," Voss added. "They will strike first. We must stand or fall together." The coalition unites inside the coalition's command chamber. The leaders gathered once more. Counselor Riven's scales gleamed under the chamber lights as he addressed the group. "The humans have proven themselves. Today, we fight as one." Counselor Myrek, still uneasy, nodded. "We may not trust them, but they saved us from the Syndicate. We owe them this chance." Admiral Sarek gave a firm salute. "If we fall, it will be fighting beside the Death Worlders." The battle begins. The Vorash Legion swept into the system like a black wave. Thousands of their biomechanical ships moved, in tight formations, emitting eerie pulses of energy. The human fleet surged forward, forming the first shield against the swarm. Each human ship was a fortress, bristling with weapons designed to cut through the toughest armor. Coalition vessels followed, firing everything they had. Unbreakable wall for hours, the battle raged. The Vorash Legion attacked relentlessly, sending swarms of smaller drones to overwhelm the defenders. But the Death Worlders never broke formation. Admiral Voss directed the fight with calm precision, coordinating human and coalition fleets like a conductor leading an orchestra. "Hold the line!" His voice rang over the comms. Energy beams crisscrossed the void, missiles streaked through space, and explosions lit the darkness. But the human wall held. Heavy losses. The cost was high. Human ships took heavy damage, some lost entirely. Lieutenant, Mara Elson watched as her own cruiser shuddered under enemy fire. "System's failing," she called out. "We can't hold much longer," Voss responded without hesitation. "Withdraw and regroup. We will not leave anyone behind." The human fleet pulled back carefully, escorting damaged ships to safety, never breaking the defensive shield. The turning strike. Meanwhile, a small squadron of human stealth fighters slipped past the swarm's front lines, their mission to find and destroy the Vorash Legion's command ship, the Heart of the Swarm. Led by Captain Jarek Holt, the fighters darted through debris and enemy fire, using speed and cunning to avoid detection. "Target locked," Holt whispered as they approached the massive black dreadnought. Final blow. The stealth squadron struck with surgical precision, launching a salvo of plasma torpedoes directly at the Vorash command ship's core. The dreadnought trembled as its systems overloaded. Back in the main battle, the swarm's attacks faltered. A chain reaction spread through the Vorash fleet, breaking their control. One by one, their ships turned dark, powerless in the void. Victory and respect as the last Vorash vessel drifted helplessly, the Coalition and human fleets let out a silent cheer. Back on the Resolute Dawn, Voss allowed himself a small smile. "This is what it means to be Deathworlders," he said softly. "We stand when others fall." Counselor Riven stepped forward. "You came when no one else could. The galaxy owes you more than words." Voss nodded. "We don't do this for thanks. We do it because we survive, and we protect." A new era in. The days that followed, the Coalition and humanity began rebuilding trust and alliances. The story of the Deathworlders who stepped forward spread across star systems. No longer whispers or myths. Humans were now known as protectors, warriors, and allies. Final moment high above Rial Prime, the stars shone quietly once again. Admiral Voss looked out at the galaxy, knowing the next threat would come. Someday, somewhere. But for now, humanity had shown the galaxy their true strength. They had stepped forward, and no one would forget it.